Hello everyone! Today we're going to work with the microbit again. We're going to write a program that lets us see different animals. We're going to call our project Trip to the Zoo. When we create our coding space, an onStart command and a forever loop are already in there. We won't use the onStart command in this project, so we can highlight that and press backspace. One of the most common types of conditionals in code are if-else statements. If-else statements state that if a condition is true, then do something, and otherwise, do something else. To get an if-else statement, we'll open the Logic menu. Let's drag the if-else statement inside of the forever loop. This hexagon shape that says true is where we want to put our conditional. In this project, we want to use whether the buttons are being pressed as our conditional. Remember, buttons are a type of input, so we'll open the Input menu, and we'll drag the hexagon-shaped button A is pressed block of code inside of our if statement. Now, we have to choose what the microbit will do when button A is pressed. We want the microbit to show an icon of an animal in this project. Let's go to the Basics menu and drag Show Icon inside of if button A is pressed. And let's choose the giraffe icon because this is a zoo. Now, if button A is pressed, then the microbit will show the giraffe icon. We don't want the giraffe to be the only animal in our zoo, though. We want the microbit to show an animal even when button A is not pressed. This is where the else statement comes in. The else statement states that if none of the above conditions are true, so if button A is not being pressed, then it will do the last block of statements inside of the else block. So from the Basics menu again, we want to drag another show icon inside of the else statement. Let's choose the turtle icon. Now, when button A is pressed, we'll see a giraffe, and when button A is not pressed, we'll see a turtle. Zoos have more than 2 animals, though. Let's add a third. We can add another conditional statement to our code by pressing this plus sign under the else statement. This adds an else-if statement. This is like an else statement in that it only happens if the original statement, if button A is pressed, is false. But it's also like an if statement in that it checks for a condition, just a different one. Let's drag an if button B is pressed as the conditional for this else if statement. We can find that by dragging the if button A is pressed into that empty hexagon shape and changing it to button B by pressing the drop-down menu on A. We want to display a snake if button B is being pressed. So let's drag a show icon inside of this else if statement and select the snake icon. Now, our code will first check if button A is being pressed. If this is true, then it will display a giraffe. But if button A being pressed is not true, then the code will check if button B is being pressed. If button B being pressed is true, it will display the snake. But if button B is not being pressed and button A is also not being pressed, then it will display the turtle. So you're all set. You made your own little zoo on your microbit and you know how to use conditionals. You can play with this program online by pressing the arrow under the microbit to the left on the screen. Or if you're using the physical microbit, feel free to download this code and use this program hands-on.